Hello, it's me, Fiona, the host of What Am I Rolling, a twice-monthly tabletop RPG one-shot podcast. You find me in the midst of travelling around the UK just now, having just finished running Podcast Zone at this year's Dragonmeet. Yes, it went very well, thanks for asking. We have a fun little bonus episode for you this week that I recorded on the fly at Dragonmeet. I was lucky enough to speak to Brian Nisbet, a Dragonmeet volunteer and the organiser of numerous charity auctions, which happen at conventions up and down the country. Brian had reached out to me prior to Dragonmeet in order to raise awareness of the importance of such charity functions and how their impact enhances not only the convention's reputation but also the community's reputation as a whole. So, this is the audio of our very rough and ready chat that we had in a tiny spot off a very noisy convention floor. So, apologies if our conversation isn't as crisp and clear as it could be. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoy. Well, here we are at Dragonmeet 2024. Both me and Brian are just here, just sort of like staring at each other going, ah. So Brian, can you introduce yourself to our wonderful listeners? Who are you and what do you do?
Yes, so I'm Brian Nisbet, and I am a gamer. I am an organiser, as I say on my various social media profiles. Gamer, organiser, storyteller, human, a whole bunch of other things. I have run a lot of... I've been gaming 40 years now, which is kind of, since I was 7, my big brother went, hey, this red box D&D thing.
This could be something, you know?
I gamed, and then I started going to conventions, and the Irish TTRPG convention scene is amazing.
Oh, right.
Come to Ireland, come to a convention. We do it in a way that... Look, I love UK conventions, but it's just the casual, the chaos, we're a nation of storytellers. I mean, that's certainly what we put on all the advertising blurbs. But then I got into writing scenarios for conventions, and then I started running them. And at some point I started doing charity auction stuff at Dragonmeet and at Compulsion in Edinburgh, the Edinburgh University Games Convention, and at GaelCon, which is the Irish National Games Convention. I also do a lot of science fiction convention organising, so I've been heavily involved in fandom convention, whatever you want to call them, heavily involved in the Discworld Convention for years, the International Discworld Convention, and these days I'm very focused on the World Science Fiction Convention, where I've been an organiser, a senior committee member multiple times. I'm currently bidding to bring Worldcon back to Dublin in 2029.
Oh, fingers crossed for that. Yeah, absolutely.
It's a small 7,000 person convention.
Tiny thing. Don't worry about it. Probably people wouldn't have heard of it. You know, that sort of.
But it's all about the. I got into this for the stories and stayed for the people, because it's all about the people.
Well, that's what I was going to ask about, because obviously volunteering, I think people don't realise that a lot of these conventions, whether it's just your local sort of TTRPG, like a night at the game store, or like something like Dragonmeet, or as you said, Worldcon, does rely a lot on just people, manpower, people power, just to bring things in, but also unpaid hours in terms of like emails, logistics, like that. Like, you say you do it for the people, but like, how did you get into doing volunteering? Is it just like, you're like, I'll just do it and then just not go back? Like, why volunteer?
I mean, it's easy to blame my mother, but in all joking aside, volunteering was a big thing that my mum did. Where we grew up in Dublin, a very new estate, a very new thing. She volunteered for the Bridge Club and volunteered for other things, and then we did like sales of work, and we had the biggest sale of work in the parish. Which sounds, my God, so parochial. Which exactly.
Hey,
and then it was just natural when I see something, I tend to go, what's behind the curtain? How do I get involved? And just the buzz of these events, of people. I mean, you can hear them hopefully on the podcast. The people in the background. There are thousands of people here at Dragonmeet having a great time, and that buzz of just being able to enable that. And I mean, look, I will say, and see the things behind the curtain. I get very bored when I'm just in the audience. But it's all about community. And I mean, my day job, which is providing internet services to Irish universities and schools and things like that, is again all about community. We have pan-European and international communities, people working with each other. And it's the same in gaming conventions, science fiction conventions, fandom conventions. And it's that big difference between, and no shade on them, they're amazing, but the big Comic-Cons and things like that, where there are people making money off this, Repop and all of those folks, and again, they do their thing, that's awesome. And thousands of people, tens of thousands of people love them. But for me, it's all about the fact that we're the organisers are there, and in a lot of the cases of science fiction conventions especially, they're paying. It's their own money. My mom occasionally goes, "You're doing this thing. Do you get paid for it?" And I'm like, No. I spend a lot of my own money on this. But I contend with anyone to not kind of do a thing, and it doesn't have to be running a whole convention.
No, of course
it doesn't have to be spending hours or weeks or months of your time organising it. It's coming along, you volunteer for an hour, you sit at a door, you answer some questions to people. Just that vibe, I think it's Avenue Q, they have the whole song about, it's great to be nice, or whatever the song
I know what you mean,
You get this vibe off it, and so you're doing this great thing, and also it's a really enriching piece to meet people, to talk about. To share your passion with people is a gift.
Yeah, it's very it's wild because some people will just come here and just be it's a time where all their friends come to play games or something like that, and then maybe don't go beyond that. But I do find it's really interesting. Like myself, obviously, I organise podcasts there, and getting podcast people to come together. And some people are brand new to the scene. Some people are like, "Oh, I don't know what this is," and then just meeting people and being able to be like, "Oh, you do a thing, I do a thing. We can collaborate and make stories together." And it's just like, yes, and then you don't feel. I think that's the thing. You don't feel alone. You don't feel like you're working. That's just your precious thing, and no one's helping you. You know what I mean?
It's exactly that. When I started gaming, when my brother was running our game, which was D&D and then became AD&D second edition. This dates it perfectly. And we sat around a table in my parents' house, and then I heard about these conventions, which would have been 1990 was the first time I heard about them. And I was like, oh my God, there are more of us.
Yeah.
And it's those images of the little streams growing towards the bigger rivers to do all of this. And of that group of 5 or 6 of us, I was the only person who because they were perfectly happy. And again, there are tables all around the world of people who are playing this game, and that's all they want. Yeah. And that's amazing.
Yeah, great. They've got a table. Amazing.
Well, I mean, whether that table is virtual or physical is a whole different thing these days, of course. But then there are the people who go, no, wait, there are more of us. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can meet people, and I can tell my stories and share them and learn theirs and go beyond. I mean, it's really easy to always invoke Tolkien and these kind of things, but that bit of you go beyond the village, you go beyond the town, the city, the country into this international stuff. Mm-hmm. And in 30 years of going to conventions, sure, I've met some people I don't particularly want to meet again. Of course. But that's a handful. It's a handful, isn't it? Yeah. Literally hundreds, if not thousands, of people around the world who I'm like, when do I get to see them again? When do I get to tell these stories? When do I get to hear what's happened to them? Yeah. And play games with them or talk about things.
It's definitely, it feels like that sort of like you had to be there moments only really happen. And like even today, I've met so many people who I've only met online or anything like that for the first time, and we caught up and we're all going to have meals together later. And it's just everyone's just happy and nice, and it's because they enjoy your company, and I get that shared interest and stuff. So it's wonderful, and I obviously would recommend anyone listening to go to a convention. Local is also is work. I mean, rather,
again, go to your local convention, and again, it's all about maybe your table's enough for you. Yeah. Great. Maybe your local convention's enough for you. Maybe you look at it and you're someone like me who goes, no, wait, what?
I must know more. I must make it my whole personality.
What continent will I travel to next to go and do this? But even just do it once and take that risk to go, and importantly, take that risk to go and maybe, again, if it suits you, if it works, to sit down with some people and go, hi, I'm me.
Yeah.
Or you play a table of a game at a convention, which again I highly recommend, or indeed even volunteer to run one. and walk away afterwards and go, do you want to get a coffee?
Yeah, do you want to get a drink? I've had plenty of drinks bought for me after running games, and I've gone, wow, I did not think that went well, Like,
that has not happened often enough to me, I feel, but, it's the perils of these things. But it's exactly that. It's just, it's a risk. Yes. Oh, God, it's a risk.
Of course, yeah.
And I'm biased because of my history and my experience and all the rest, but it's a risk that's so worth it. And, and I mean, the internet, which we all now live with all the time, and not to continually date, I'm only in my late 40s, but Usenet back in the day, and Terry Pratchett fandom, and like the Discworld conventions, which are now 1,000 people every year, the international one in the UK, other ones elsewhere in the world, there's one in Ireland. That came out of conversations, people going, do we want to meet up?
Yeah.
And the great thing now is you can go to a convention and then just go, hey, so we could chat on Discord or whatever your platform happens to be. Other platforms are available. And you can keep that connection going in a way that we couldn't then, and we now do. With, again, you're not pledging your life to the people you meet. You're just going, hey, well, maybe we'll meet again here next year.
I'm always a big fan of, the more you put in, the more you get out of it. And even if you as you say, have a bad experience, we all had them. You can go, you never guess what happened at this. Oh, and you go, here's my horror story. But it shouldn't be something to put you off. And I always think it's something because trying something new. And I agree. Like, I've run for complete strangers, and I don't know who my players are, and they turn up and they've obviously all been really lovely. And I always set my expectations like, hey, I might not know all the rules. I'm also very tired. Let's play as we are. And it's always been joyous. And I've actually had people come back and want to play my games again.
Oh, fantastic!
Because I know that
feeling. It's amazing.
It's such a lovely thing. Because obviously I don't expect them to come back. They're like, I played my £5 or whatever, and they're like, oh no, I really enjoyed your games. I want to see what else you've got on offer. So very much so. So then let's talk about the charity aspect then. So how did that come about for you? Because obviously I know charity auctions are a thing. Like, what is it about charity and TTRPGs that makes you? What is it about TTRPG and charities that work so well together? I guess is that question.
So a part of this is going to be around the difference between Irish charity auctions and charity auctions elsewhere. Uh-huh. But a million years ago, I wasn't even at the convention, and I certainly wasn't old enough to go to the pub that this happened, so I've only heard this story. But in a pub after a GaelCon, there was a cuddly toy, and somebody in the pub, one of the community, went, "What am I bid for this?" Yeah, and there is a stereotype around Irish people, and one can talk about Celtic stereotypes, which are ahistorical, but sodden stereotypes are fun when they're good, about generosity, about wanting to one-up the person beside you and be the most generous. And you find this in a lot of Celtic mythology of people wanting to be most generous and give the most things. So this is still a thing that happens. But people are there, they're having a good time, they might have had a pint or two, or not. And somebody says, hey, here's this thing, and here's a really good cause. And at GaelCon, the Irish Games Association run convention and their charity auction, it's all about being for the kids. That was the phrase. The phrase was for the kids. And so the charities which are given are all about that. And it's about that thing of a bunch of people, especially in the 90s, especially when we were just coming out of the Satanic Panic era. And that whole notion, I mean, a world a million miles away from now with Critical Role and Dimension 20 and D&D being on the front cover of Time and all of these things. Yeah. This was very much of an era of I have found my nerds, and I found my people. And you're like, well, and these are people who had jobs and they were doing things, and they're like, we can give back and we can bring this into kids who either improve their life and or promote this. Let's not beat about the bush here. Let's understand this promotion here. So that was the kind of thing, and it's a bunch of people. Generally speaking, convention goers and gamers they're positive people. They want to spread the word. They want to build on the community, and they want to give back. Yeah. Thankfully, some of those people have done well for themselves and have the ability to do that. In Ireland, oh my God, when you're sitting there and someone is offering you a 3-figure sum for a 12-inch ruler that happens to be a brand of tea that's very popular in Ireland, or the same for a latex foam rubber LARP brick. Right. It gets a bit gets a bit enthusiastic, which
Right.
you don't see here. But I would watch this and I would see these things and look at the charity auctions and go, I like the sound of my own voice.
Always a plus.
I feel that I have an ability to tell a story, to make a joke, to engage an audience. And this is an amazing thing, and maybe this is something that I can do as part of the community, to be the person who stands up and extracts the cash out of people for these amazing causes. And there were other people, in the case of Gaelcom, there were a bunch of really amazing people who did it. And I had asked the committee, I said, at some point, if somebody stops doing it, consider me as a thing. And they did a number of years ago and offered it to me. In the case of Compulsion in Edinburgh, we kind of talked, and I was there every year, and again I got more and more involved.
You're slowly inching your way.
Other people stopped doing it, and suddenly I was standing there on my own, going, "Oh, it's just me."
Oh, it's me. Yeah.
Similar things happen at Dragonmeet. I just kind of went, "This is amazing. This is such a crucial part. How do we promote this as a core part of the community?" Because there's lots of positive things that gamers and fandom people in general do, but the ability to write a big check for a really good organization is such a clear one.
Yeah.
So that combination of the good work and also the PR, again, we can't ignore that, and was a big thing. So I was like, okay, I want to do this, and also I wanted to bring the good word of Irish Games Charity Auctions, who won the Diana Jones Award for Gaming in 2006. I wanted to bring that to the rest of the world and kind of, in the nicest possible way, shame UK gamers into giving more money to charity by going, we do this thing in Ireland.
Yeah. Where's your, get your wallets out, that sort of thing. Yeah,
because it's not a way of getting a bargain. It's a way of getting something on behalf of your donation to a charity. Because charity auctions is the big difference. A lot of our charity donations, you just give money because you're a good person and you have if you have money spare, you can do that. With a charity auction, you're walking away with something.
Yeah.
And that something might have been something you could have bought at a stall, an amazing thing, and you pay a little bit extra for it. Or it might be a unique item.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It might be, at Dragonmeet, it might be a John Cavallic signed. You might be a Munchkin card. You might get your Christmas card drawn by John Cavallic. You might get a rare signed, bonus uber mega edition of a game. You might get games consultancy from. So you might get these things which
we absolutely would not get otherwise, right? Yeah.
And I'm not sure, I'm kind of rambling here a little bit on this, but fundamentally it came down to the fact that this was a really clear thing that I felt my talents matched with, and is one of the clearest expressions of community that I think that certainly, that gamers have, where we go, we're not sitting here in our bedrooms playing this game. We're part of this world, and we can really clearly give back.
And that's the key thing, isn't it? Yeah, it's giving back and like encouraging other people, like you said, to take up the cause and be like, hey, being aware around you, even if it is, like you said, it's buying something, you're paying a little bit extra for it and stuff. I guess, has there been any, I know you've been doing like stuff for today's charity, but has there ever been any outstanding, like, oh my God, I can't believe I got this donation for a previous year, or anything like that? Any unusual items, I say?
Yeah, I talked about John Cavallic, who was a guest of honour at Dragonmeet many years. He was a guest at WarpCon in University College Cork in Ireland's convention. And, the ability to go, I will put you on a Munchkin card is... There are two people in the world at the time. There's still two people in the world, effectively. It's not Steve anymore, it's Andrew, but who can, along with John Cavallic, who can do that. If you have a Pathfinder Munchkin set and you look at the Druid, who's a guy with a red beard and no hair, that was something I bought at a charity auction. I am one of the Druids from Munchkin Pathfinder. He also owes me another card, but that's a whole different conversation. But so that's one of the things. I think, We've had film memorabilia, which comes along, where someone has gone has bumped into a celebrity or something like that and gone, hi, I can bring this back to a charity auction that will raise it will raise thousands of euro for a really good charity, and we've had some phenomenal donations there. I need to do a shout out to Larian Studios, who have one of their offices in Dublin, and one of their staff plays in a game with my wife, and the GM is someone who's involved in GaelCon, involved in the Irish Games Association. And so he gives a mystery box. The last couple of years, it's just a mystery box.
Cool.
Who knows what's inside it?
Hey, no, I love that.
And that raised a lot of money. And this year it turned out to be the Divinity Original Sin board game.
Oh, cool.
But other things they've done, they've signed things and all the rest. And those kind of things where you really you persuade a studio. And I've seen some of the things for this evening's charity auction, Dragonmeet, and they're
pretty good, huh?
There's some very good items there. Right. And I mean, Jog, who does the maps now for Dragonmeet and does them for a few Irish conventions, he tends to provide both the original of the map, but also one of the regular. And I don't know if he's giving it for this evening. Sure,
of course, yeah.
And I don't want to bind him into anything, but he has regularly gone, I will draw you a map.
Wow, that's pretty epic, isn't it?
Which is phenomenal, and you get those artists and people who will do those kind of things. One more shout out to the original kind of things you can only get at these auctions. James Wallace, who used to run Dragonmeet, and in fact who I have auctioned beside, and who one time charged me an extra €10 for a copy of Kill Puppies for Satan, which is an amazing game you should all check out if you get the chance. Because of he was like, Brian's a Christian, €10 Christian tax on this game in a very loud pub in Cork. But James will do some games, has offered games consultancy things, and that's the kind of thing that
it's fun. It's so different and unusual, isn't it? That's the thing.
You can't buy that off the internet.
No, very difficult. So I guess obviously I know this will go out after Dragonmeet and the charity and all that sort of thing. But like, what is it that people? Can you give us a sneak preview of what is at the auction? And so that when people come next to Dragonmeet or next to one of these cons, that they can keep an eye out for, that sort of thing.
I haven't actually seen what
anything.
I've only seen one of the things, which is an amazing Mephidius lot, which is a very special collector's edition piece that they have of one of their very recent games. So the amazing Dragonmeet, some of the amazing Dragonmeet staff are actually going around the traders and collecting things from them. So you'll have stuff that is there, and again, the traders are the people who donate. We wouldn't have a charity auction without the people who donate. And I've called out a few specific people, but every single person at whatever convention has gone, here is a something.
Yes.
Is just, even I can't sell fresh air. Just standing in a room going, just give us your money, is very difficult, even for a great cause. So every single person who donates is amazing. And
like you said, it could be anything. It could be a small, but it could be, and that's it doesn't matter.
So we've had bits of scenery, hardback copies of role-playing games. Sometimes they're signed, sometimes they're not signed, sometimes they're really individual and amazing. Dice, card games, entire board games, just £100 plus board games, that are up there. Really high quality items over the year. It's almost vanishingly rare that I stand there and go, how do I sell this thing?
Of course,
And sure, sometimes the numbers are different, but there will always be things there that you may, as I said, we know everybody will be able to get, but even the things that are more common will be the less common end of those items. They tend to be the special editions, tend to be the kind of things where, okay, you didn't back the Kickstarter, but here's where you can get the unique Kickstarter items and things like that.
Sure. Amazing.
So it runs the whole gamut, and we try to have something for everybody.
Every price point and stuff like that,
I mean, what we do a lot in Ireland, which we don't do at Dragonmeet for reasons, but is also things like VIP tickets to conventions.
Right,
That might be the entry plus the T-shirts plus entry to whatever games you want. Sometimes we've offered, a game written for you by one of the really good writers.
Cool.
And things like that. So really, it's up to the imagination. I run a residential convention, small residential convention every spring in Ireland, and my offering has always been the 3 nights self-catering accommodation. You have to buy your own food,
that's
but also
pretty good. Yeah.
With a slab of beer or spirits or a whole rake of soft drinks if that's your
bag.
To add to that. So there's always something extra on top.
Nice. No, I very much appreciate it. Well, Brian, obviously we've been talking about this for a while. You need to go back to work. I need to go back to work. But I was going to say, if people were considering, any traders out there listening to this sort of thing, what is it that you think would make a really good donation? I know we were talking about all the different things, but what is it something that you're like, this would be really awesome for a charity auction? So
it's something a bit different. It's something that people can only get there. So if you were coming to Dragonmeet in 2025 and you're a trader, and especially if you make your own stuff, for instance, something like that, if you think about it and go, well, okay, I'm making whatever the X thing you're making is, but if I make one which says Dragonmeet Charity Auction 2025 or something like that, which is something that people, literally this is unique, people pay a lot for unique, even if it's in all possible ways same to the next one beside it, they pay a lot for unique. So think about that and go, what could I bring that somebody could stand there and go, there is one of these in the world. Or you can only get this here, and that is always going to get a premium on top of the amazing money that people are already giving to the charity.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Brian, for taking the short amount of time to talk about it, and best of luck for tonight's charity auction. And other cons coming up for you. I think this episode will go out sort of just before the new year. So is there any other cons coming up that we should look out for charity auctions?
Yes, so I would say Compulsion, which is the University of Edinburgh's Gaius this convention, which will be happening in April. I think shortly before Easter they're going to announce their date soon. That is a phenomenal few hundred people convention up in Edinburgh. Edinburgh's an amazing city. Ireland has a convention, so many conventions. WarpCon in UCC the last weekend in January has an amazing charity auction, and then end of October in Dublin, GaelCon is fantastic. And there are charity auctions at a lot of conventions. They're not always as obvious as they can be. A lot of the science fiction conventions raise charity auctions for fan funds to build the fanish community. And WorldCon was in Glasgow. In 20 what year are we? 2024.
Who knows, Brian?
And we're hoping to bring it to Dublin in 2029, and there's lots of opportunities there again. So if you can, then you have lots of opportunities.
Lots of opportunities to get involved, to give to charity auction. Amazing. So,
cool. And thank you so much for giving me the chance to talk about this.
I'm glad about our paths crossed after we talked about it. So I very much appreciate it. And enjoy the rest of Dragonmeet 2024 and enjoy the auction.
You too. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
I'm hoping to do more of these special Q&A bonus episodes in the future, including Q&As on the one-shots we have run here at What Am I Rolling? If you have a question or think of an RPG designer you'd like to see interviewed on this podcast, just let us know. Our email address is whatamirollingpodcast@gmail.com. And that's it. Great. See you next time.